Hello. So, what we covered in the first video on slope was just some basics. And one of the things that makes slope useful is the ease of which to be able to graph. But then it can be a little bit more complicated unless you're structured of finding slope just given 2 points. So, I want to go over a couple examples to just further illustrate what is slope and how do you use it. So we need to remember that slope is the change in y over the change in x. Slope will give you direction from a known point. Our known point is going to be our y-intercepts. And what we need to remember is this: y equals mx plus b. Our y-intercept, the plus b, can be viewed as 0 comma y, whatever that y value is, or specifically for this equation, 0 comma b. All right. So here's our first equation. Y equals 2/3, 2 over 3, x plus 2. So pause the video and identify the slope and identify the y-intercept. Okay, for this problem, my slope is m equals 2/3, and my y-intercept, b, is 2, which I can rewrite as 0 comma 2. This is my starting point. So x is 0, so right there, and y is 2. I move up 2 units. That is my starting point. Now I will use my slope to find other points on the line. What I'm going to do is all I need are 2 points to graph my line, but what I will do is I will find 2 additional points with my slope. Again, if you would like to pause the video and do it yourself, go ahead. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the point up here. I notice that my slope is positive, so I know my line is going to look something like this. It's going to go across this way. So my change in y is 2, so I move up 2, and my change in x is 3. Change in x, change in y. This is my point. I can go ahead and graph my line, and I will do that as neatly as I can. Now, I'm going to find a third point on there, but I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I'm going to take a negative change in y and a negative change of x, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So my change in y is 2, so if I chose to go down in the negative direction, as long as I go in the negative for x, I will be fine. And this is a negative change of x of 3 units, 1, 2, 3. And as you can tell, there's my other point. Alright, so now I've given a negative slope. Pause the video if you would like. Take a look at it and see if you can figure it out before we work it. Okay, so identify your slope. My slope is a negative 2 over 3, or 2 over negative 3, and my y-intercept is 2, so 0 comma 2. This is my starting point. Slope will give me the direction. So starting point is 2. There's my point, and I will do this one first. So my change in y is a negative 2, going down, so it's my negative change in y. My change in x is 3. that is a positive change in x. And that is my point right there. Let's go ahead and do our other point. This time I'm going to have y as being positive. So a positive change in y, that means I move up. It's my positive y. And a negative change of x of 3 units. I'm going to move to the left 3. Negative change of x. And this right here is my point. To graph, now you guys won't be graphing by hand. You'll be using my math lab to do your graphing, and that's a lot easier and more precise. There we go. We've graphed both of those. Again, slope gives me direction from a known location. My known location is always going to be my y-intercept. I plot my y-intercept, and from there I use my slope. I use my slope, the change in y over the change in x. Remember, negative divided by negative, a negative change of y over a negative change in x is a positive. Negative divided by negative. But whenever I only have one negative sign, so I got a negative in the numerator, negative in the denominator, but whenever I only have one negative sign, I can view it like this. No matter what, my value is negative. A negative divided by a positive is always negative. So this right here is positive. This right here is negative. Okay, one other thing that I want to talk about to expand upon slope is whenever you're given 2 points. I don't know my slope, but I can find that slope. Because just like what we've done up here, if I count these places, okay, so like this, I count, that's 1, 2. Okay, I have 2 for my y, change in y, and then 1, 2, 3, I have 3 for my change in x, 2/3. See, I'm not given a graph. I'm just going to do this mathematically. So how this works is with this formula. Change in y over the change in x. Look at this. I'm going from this point to this point. Those are 2 different points. How I find that is I find the difference between the 2. So y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now, we have 2 different sets of y's and 2 different sets of x's, and we can get things mixed up. So this is how I work it. I take my problem and I just write it like this. I write my 2 points this way, and I say, okay, you're going to be point 1 and you're going to be point 2, and you are my x values and you're my y values. This way I don't get any numbers mixed up. So I look here and I say, okay, y sub 2. So there's y and there's 2, so that value is 5. Minus y sub 1. So your y and your 1, y'all meet there. So there's 4. Now x sub 2, x and 2, there we go. And x sub 1. X and 1, there's 0. And now you do the math. 5 minus 4 is 1. 2 minus 0 is 2. My slope, given these 2 points, is 1/2. And look at that. What is this actually? 0, 4, which is simply 0, y, but in my slope-intercept form I could say 0, b. That's my slope-intercept. I could actually write the equation to this line knowing that. I could say y equals 1/2 x plus 4, and that is the equation of my line. That's not what it asked us to do. It asked us to simply find slope. But being able to reason through and think critically is very important. So what I'd like for you to do now, pause the video and determine the slope given these 2 points. Alright, I know that slope is the change in y over the change in x, which is simply y sub 2 minus y sub 1. See, these are the change. There's a change in there I'm subtracting. It's just like finding distance on a number line. And I'm going to structure my work so I don't get things mixed up and messed up. So y sub 2 is 5, and y sub 1 is a negative 3. And we'll put it in parentheses, that way I don't get confused with it right now. X sub 2 is a negative 4, minus x sub 1 is a negative 2. So a negative and a negative, they become positive. So what I end up with is 5 plus 3 over a negative 4 plus 2. And that is going to equal 8 over negative 2, which simply equals a negative 4. And I can put it over what number? 1. Very good. So a little bit more on slope, and we'll have other videos on that. Good luck with your homework. Again, make sure you're watching the videos from the publisher.